Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have a great guest on. Now, if you've been watching and following the Business Talk Library, you noticed that I was on Mark Goldman's show, and when him and I were talking, we were talking about his business. I was like, I definitely want to bring him on. So welcome to the show, Mark Goldman.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for returning the favor. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before we jump into talking about your business, MGR, accounting, recruiting, tell us a little bit about, what was your background before starting that recruiting company?
Sure. Actually, I come from a little bit of a line of accountants, I guess. I had a couple in my family, but my father was a CPA, and frankly, I started out as very cheap labor in his business when I was in middle school and high school and throughout college. And so that's how I ended up, getting into accounting and becoming a CPA myself. And obviously I took my career a different path later on, but my father was an accountant and frankly, I always enjoyed tax and working with clients and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how I got into the business.
Gotcha. Now, was there ever any part of you that was like, you know what, my family has done this, I want to do something different?
It's funny. Not really. I liked as a kid. I said I was cheap labor. I didn't say I was free labor. My dad did pay me, and and I liked being in middle school and high school and having some spending money, and I took to the word pretty well, so I sort of liked it. It's ironic though. I have one sibling, a sister, and throughout high school and the first couple of years in college, she was determined to never be an accountant. She never wanted to work in my dad's business, and I have worked in my dad's business. And so now we're both CPAs. I'm in recruiting, and actually she's the real accountant now. She's the one that still does financial reporting. So it's sort of ironic. It actually went the other way.
Gotcha. It's always interesting to see, because different people have their, the different paths. Where I know my father was a career military. He was in the Army for 22 years, and it was one of those things where I was like, you know what, I think I want to do something different, and I chose accounting as my path.
There you go.
Awesome. So, through your time of, of navigating that after, working for your father, pursuing the path of accounting, what led you to go, whether from public accounting or from industry to go into the recruiting route?
Sure. So, that's an interesting part of the story. And actually I've got, so as you mentioned, I have my own podcast. We're coming up on episode 200. And when that comes out, I'm going to share some of the details about my own career path on that one. But this will be a preview. So that's good. Actually, I was, you said something, do something different than my father and that kind of thing. And I guess I had a little bit of that. It wasn't that I didn't like accounting, but I was determined. He had a small practice, and I was determined to go out and see the bigger and better world. And so after working for him for several years, actually, I went out looking for a new job, found a new job in a governmental contracting kind of role. I was doing accounting for a company that had a contract with the government. And honestly, it was a cleanup project for the savings and loans failures. It was 80s. The 80s were where the failures were, but we were doing the cleanup in the early 90s. And I really was bored. I really didn't like that job. And so after about a year, I went to a recruiter, and that recruiter said, we're looking for someone that's done accounting but wants to do something different. And I tell people, it's funny, I was young, cheap, and a CPA, and that's what they wanted, all those three. And I'm still one of those three today, but just not the other two. So I figured, why not, give it a shot. And that was in the mid 90s. And it ended up working out as a career, Fast forward now, I've had my own company for 14 years, since 2007. Yeah, we're finishing our 14th year. And it's just, I would have never thought, you don't go you don't study accounting to become a recruiter, right? But it ended up working out. And I love what I do.
Awesome, awesome. Well, congratulations on the 14 years. That is amazing. And also congratulations on coming up on, 200 episodes on your podcast. That's another amazing feat. I think sometimes people don't realize the level of discipline and the background work that goes into having a podcast. So congratulations on both of those.
Thank you. Now I have to ask, because when I interviewed you for our podcast, I want to say you were on like video number 130 or something. So you've probably passed me up by now.
Well, not yet.
200?
Not yet. We're filming. This is episode, I think, 186. So yeah, we haven't passed 200 yet.
Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome, Terrell.
Thank you. So I'm very curious on, how did it feel when you went from, like I said, working in, the recruiting field for someone else's recruiting firm to, what did it feel like when you came to that conclusion that, hey, you know what, I want to start MGR? What was that like?
Sure. So there was a little time in between. So actually, I had been working in the field for a couple companies in recruiting, and I was, I was in a partnership that for various reasons just wasn't what I was looking for anymore, and I decided to leave. I got out of recruiting for about 3 years, did something totally different, and that whole after 6 months, it was just calling me back, and so over those 3 years, I just started putting together the business plan, and eventually I decided to pull the trigger, because I honestly just had to either give up the idea because it was bugging me so much. I needed to, think about something else, or I needed to go do it. And that, obviously is what I decided to do. Went out and started the business from scratch. I say from scratch. I mean, I was blessed with lots of friends and lots of support and people that said they do business with me in the beginning and, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I did start it from a little executive suite, about 140 square feet. Just, a phone, a laptop, and a desk, and just hoping to be able to support my family, and, praise God, it ended up working out, but it was, I'm actually thankful for what I didn't realize, because looking back on it now, I was like, what were you thinking? Because I just up and quit my job, rented an office, and said, let's make it happen. I'm glad it worked out.
Awesome. That it's very interesting when I talk to different entrepreneurs and different business owners, and they talk about, had I known upfront everything that was going to be entailed, I probably would have done something different. Like, I'm glad I did it, but if I would have known all the details, I probably would have went a different route.
Yes. Those 3 years I was doing something different. I was in a partnership before, and then I went to work with a friend of mine, and then for 3 years, and then started the business. I have to tell you that 3 years, just being a team member, a W-2 employee, just being a team member, there was a lot of relief in that, actually. I just all I had to do is go to work and do my job, and then leave, and that was it, so there's a lot to be said for that too, but I'm glad I do what I do now.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about, the types of services, industry, or geography that your company covers?
Sure. So our primary business is MGR Accounting Recruiters, and we place people mostly in what I call the greater San Antonio area, San Antonio, Texas. We've been doing it so long now, and we're so niched and so focused that now we get calls sometimes from what's referred to as the Valley in Texas, basically South Texas, South San Antonio. And then now actually we're starting to reach up as far as Austin, which is the next major city north of us a little bit. But most of our business is still in San Antonio. It is the permanent placement of accounting professionals. We also do some temporary as well. And about 2 years ago, well, actually longer than that, if you count individual classes, we started doing training for accounting professionals. So like if you go to my website, you'll see the recruiting business, you'll see the podcast, but also we have a training page where we teach individual tax, partnership tax. We have a new forensic accounting class. We're trying to fill the gap with educational opportunities for accountants that they don't necessarily get in a practical manner in college, so trying to fill that gap between work and college a little bit with educational opportunities there. So that's a long answer to a short question. Our core business is recruiting, but we do some supplemental services as well.
Awesome. So where can people find you online or on social media to follow you?
Sure. The website very simply is mgrar.com. So it's like MGR Accounting Recruiters, mgrar.com. Online, from a social media standpoint, the easiest thing is just to look me up on LinkedIn. It's very simply Mark Goldman, CPA. You can find us there. We have 3 different company pages on LinkedIn as well: MGR Accounting Recruiters, MGR Training, and then Where Accountants Go, the podcast that you were on, actually. Where Accountants Go, the Accounting Careers Podcast. So we have a page for that as well. You can see Terrell's very handsome picture there.
And I will definitely say, the Where Accountants Go podcast is a good one. So if you're listening, you're watching, definitely go check out Mark Goldman's podcast. He has some great guests on there that talk about their journey and talk about their experiences in accounting. So yeah, definitely go check it out.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. So before we wrap up, the last question I always like to ask every guest that comes on is, for 2 pieces of advice. And because you're in the field of, accounting, what I would ask is, what are 2 pieces of advice that you would have for accountants that are looking to, whether it's land that new job or whether it's to move their career forward?
Okay. 2 pieces of advice. So actually, I've written a couple books. One of them is 49 Tips for a Successful Accounting Career. So I'm cheating a little bit here because I already wrote a book with 49 of them. But it's a collection of some of the best advice we gotten from some of our podcast guests. And so to answer your question, I'd say if you're early on in your career, yeah, I know you hear this as a student and as a young professional, young in the profession, but networking really is important. I'm very active in our local CPA society. When I was a student, back, obviously before being a CPA, I was active with the Institute of Management Accountants and their student chapter. I really think that making those connections outside of just classmates and professors is very important. So, the more you do of that, I think the easier it is to have more options in your career, really, and not just for that first job, but for jobs, after that as well. And then I think as you get your career going, accountants, sometimes we focus a lot on being good technicians in accounting. I think it's important to learn a lot about business processes and operations. I'm sure you see this in your business, because as you grow as an accountant, upper management or the owners of companies, if you're self-employed, like yourself, Terrell, they don't want to just know the numbers. They want to know what the numbers mean and how that can help them manage their business. And so the more you understand about operations, really the more of that trusted advisor you become. And so I think that's highly important as well.
Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show, telling us a little bit more about your background, your business, your podcast, Where Accountants Go. And also, you said you mentioned you wrote the book. Where can they find a copy of the book?
Actually, got 3 books on Amazon. If you just look for my name, Mark Goldman, all 3 will pop up. But it's 49 Tips for a Successful Accounting Career, 49 tips for working with a headhunter. And then also the third one, it doesn't say 49. It's just called Hiring for Accounting. So all on Amazon. Thank you for asking.
No problem. Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.